Regina Caeli laetare, alleluia. Qui hoc meruisti potare, alleluia. Resurrexit sicut dicit, alleluia. Ora pro nobis Deum, alleluia.
Thank you for tuning in to my Monastic Musings channel. In the days following the election of Pope Leo XIV, I was sustaining myself in the many good things I was reading or seeing about his first days as Vicar of Christ. These moments helped me keep my spirits up as I dealt with the news stories regarding the astounding corruption of the Trump regime and the cruelty of his thugs who justified the kidnapping and trafficking of brown-skinned peoples to foreign gulags without due process, while ignoring the courts, which have demanded reparative actions in bringing these people back to the United States. It gave me hope that the new Holy Father was simultaneously condemning these actions. Then, on Friday evening, I came across an announcement on my Archdiocesan website which landed as a sucker punch, leaving me stunned for the entire weekend. The announcement I read reminded me of two disturbing historical images I discovered on the internet several years ago. Both photos depict Catholic clergy, including bishops, giving the Nazi salute. In one of the pictures, one can easily make out the face of Joseph Goebbels. According to an old saying, hindsight is always 20/20. Knowing what took place in the years following these gut-wrenching photos, it is understandable why anyone today would be upset by viewing them. It may be difficult to get into the heads of the people at the time who did not foresee the future. Older Europeans had just begun to experience life without a monarch, and were probably still trying to come to terms with self-governing while dealing with economic issues the world was facing at the beginning of the 1930s. Perhaps many believed that Hitler was restoring a sense of order and decency after the 1920s, which for some was viewed as a time of excess and debauchery. White European Christians easily ignored growing anti-Semitic sentiments in exchange for a false sense of security and empty national pride. Today, we should know better, but only part of the population can see how the Trump regime, which is not an administration, is repeating the same playbook as have many despotic authoritarian rulers throughout history. 1. By instilling fear and hatred of certain populations by characterizing them as criminals who are less than human.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
2. By creating suspicion about the press being untruthful, claiming that journalists brainwash people with dangerous ideas.
That we are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony, fake. They are the enemy of the people.
3. Ruling by edict, enacting laws by the stroke of a pen, replacing the legitimate authority of elected legislative bodies. 4. Empowering secret militias of thugs to harass, arrest, deport, and disappear people considered personal enemies by the head of state. 5. Ignoring legitimate actions by legislative or judicial bodies in governance. 6. And of course, trafficking in lies, 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 and more lies. We should recognize the dangerous road we are on and do everything we can to get off that road. Our Christian faith commands us to care about the least among us, including the stranger, the homeless, and the hungry. We are commanded to care for the born as well as for the unborn. Right now, all peoples, born and unborn, are in danger. By discontinuing USAID, the current government is starving babies in distant lands. This is not pro-life. So, while Pope Leo's words about compassion for migrants, justice for laborers, and care for creation reaches the ears of those living on this side of the pond, on this side of the island, my own Archbishop is digging his heels into the ground and drawing a line in the dirt. Archbishop Salvatore Corleone makes no secret of his solidarity with the political agenda of Tim Bush and the Napa Institute, which openly opposed the papacy of Pope Francis and has aligned itself with the MAGA agenda as defined in Project 2025. And enthusiastically supported the election of Donald Trump. On Friday, May 16th, I discovered this announcement on the sfarchdiocese.org website. Archbishop Salvatore J. Corleone, designated to serve on Advisory Board of Presidential Religious Liberty Commission. In the press release, the Archbishop is quoted as saying, "Religious liberty is a critical issue of our time that needs to be defended and addressed." Really? In what country? The current regime has demonstrated that it has no interest in what goes on in other lands. We no longer provide life-saving aid to starving children, so why should we care about their religious liberties? We barely care about their human rights anymore. Oh, you mean here in the United States? I'm not aware that my freedom to worship is being threatened. I have never been stopped from attending Mass or exercising my religious observances. So what exactly is the issue here? The issue of religious liberty in these United States has commanded the attention of right-wing religious groups at a close second to protecting the rights of the unborn. It is purely an invented idea that the woke liberal government is actively persecuting our churches and institutions and passing laws to deliberately interfere with our freedom to live out our faith. In response to this non-issue, President Trump signed another executive order to create this Religious Liberty Commission. The webpage, which publishes the names of those appointed to the commission, provides no details on the mission or the purpose of this group. The list of members contains names of Trump toadies such as Cardinal Dolan, who can't say enough about his bestie Donald. Bishop Barron, whose friends include Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, and Candace Owens. Dr. Phil McGraw, who took a camera crew along with Trump thugs to apprehend desperate migrants crossing the Mexican border. And Pastor Paula White, who, well...
Strike and 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 strike.
On the day the executive order was signed, the president questioned the value of separation of church and state as established by the Constitution. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure, the president said. But whether there's a separation or not, you guys are in the White House where you should be, and you're representing our country, and we're bringing religion back to our country, and that's a big deal. So speaketh the president, who rarely attends church services, who can't quote a single verse from the Bible, and doesn't believe he needs to seek God's forgiveness. This is the same president who bragged about sexually assaulting women, who was found liable for sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll, and who was convicted on 34 felonies connected with making hush money payments to a porn star to cover up a sexual encounter shortly after his wife Melania gave birth to their son Barron. Archbishop Corleone will be among those forming an advisory board for this new commission. Exactly what he will be doing there or what the commission will accomplish is not clear. We are guaranteed freedom of religion by the First Amendment of the Constitution. If some law is enacted that violates that right, We have a system in place to file a lawsuit against the government, and there are plenty of lawyers available to make that happen. That is why there exists the Thomas More Society to assist the U.S. Catholic Church in protecting its rights. Unfortunately, as life in the United States has become more divisive and more polarized, some Catholic groups, including the Thomas More Society, have become so partisan to the point where there is little daylight between what the MAGA Republican Party stands for and what bodies of Catholic social and professional groups promote. They share a common purpose solely focused on owning the libs and silencing any efforts to dialogue with segments of the U.S. Catholic faithful who do not align themselves with the MAGA ideology. There is a very scary aspect of hosting this Religious Liberty Commission in the White House. This was made clear to me just before the beginning of the conclave when the White House reposted Trump's Truth Social post of that vile AI image of Trump dressed as the Pope. This occurred just days after Trump said on camera that he would like to be elected Pope. It is clear that Trump is working tirelessly to consolidate all political power under himself while actively destroying every institution in the United States. He has managed to assemble incompetent sycophants to head all government departments and agencies in order to bring them into submission to his whims and fantasies. I am sure he intends to crown himself as the head of the United States Christian Church, in the same way Henry VIII named himself as head of the Church of England. Trump has long been an admirer of mega-church leaders who preach what is commonly known as the prosperity gospel, which equates the accumulation of great financial wealth with divine favor. Committee member Paula White represents that line of thinking. The methods by which these mega-church leaders attract large followings and bilk billions of dollars from their devotees is everything Donald Trump holds dear. It is not about bringing religion back, but about bringing religion and religious people under submission as he works to feed his insatiable lust for power and wealth. The participation of U.S. bishops in this committee is extremely concerning. Just like European Catholic clergy in the 1930s fell in line with the Nazi regime while turning a blind eye to the atrocities instigated by Hitler and his thugs, so prominent U.S. Catholic bishops are turning their backs on brown-skinned migrants and refugees in order to seek favor and inclusion to this growing despotic government. The words of Pope Leo in his homily at his inauguration Mass last Sunday deeply contradict all that for which the Trump regime stands. Brothers and sisters, I would like that our first great desire be for a united church, a sign of unity and communion, which becomes a leaven for a reconciled world. In this our time, we still see too much discord, too many wounds caused by hatred, violence, prejudice, the fear of difference, and an economic paradigm that exploits the earth's resources and marginalizes the poorest. The Catholic bishops of the United States should stand in vehement opposition to everything which Trump attempts to accomplish. They should not submit to his attempts to seize control of religious organizations. For the sake of the least among us, Catholic leaders must open their eyes to the deception being enacted by this phony nothing-burger commission. Failing to do so will result in the loss of religious liberty, not its preservation. May Holy Mary, Queen of Peace, preserve us from this tragedy. Thank you for watching, and peace be with you.
Regina Caeli laetare, alleluia. Qui hoc meruisti cordare, alleluia. Resurrectis sicut dicit, alleluia. Ora pro nobis Deus.